How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kufay, Daf 105 of Masechta BavaKama, friends. Yo, friends. These dafs these days. This daf might be long. It might talk be long, but let me tell you something. It's nothing compared to tomorrow's daf. Tomorrow's daf is going to be something. I wonder if tomorrow's daf is going to be longer than the longest daf that we had a few days ago. I don't know. It might be. It might not be. I don't know. I can't really tell with daf Kuf but it's a big one. It's a big one. It's a slow one. It's a slow daf. Anyways, we'll get to that tomorrow. Today we're doing which is daf Kufay. Oh, Babylon. Yeah, it just talks about like BavaKama kind of stuff. Like the Gemaras recently have been like real slow, like lots of details, and like your mama's gotta go methodically, So it's just it's slow moving stuff. So, all right, let's go. All right, we're gonna start in Daf Kufay Amar Aleph at the 2 dots. Okay, let's do it. Chutz mi pachis. You see, like chutz mi pachis shvei pruta bekeren, like. Okay, what's he denying? Is it a Shavuot Pruta, less than a Shavuot Pruta? What does he have to do? How many witnesses? There's so much going on here. So if he paid... Babylon. So that's in the scenario is where Ruvain stole from Shimon. He swore that he did not... Babel, stretch. He swore that he didn't, and he admitted that he did. So we said that he's mamish got to get it back to Shimon. He can't give it to his son, can't give it to his messenger. We said though that if he paid everything back except for less than a Shavuot Pruta, so then what was it? If he paid everything back, or maybe it was moichel everything. What was it? Where are we? Mochel ala kev mochel ala chomesh. Okay, wait, where is it? Okay. Nosno is a chomesh, nosno is a keren. Mochel ala chomesh, mochel ala keren. Mochel al zev zeh chutz mi. Wait, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Nosno is a keren, nosno is a chomesh. Mochel ala keren, mochel ala chomesh. Mochel al zev zeh. Chutz mi pachus m'shei puta b'keren. If Shimon said, you know what, Reuben, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the keren. Don't worry about the chomesh. Just pay me less than a Shavuot Pruta. So if that's the case, then he doesn't have to chase at. Reuben doesn't have to chase after Shimon. Okay. So now. Amar Papa says, Papa Loshanu Ella she'ein gezela kayemis. So it says Papa that when we say that if Shimon was moichel everything except for less than a Shavuot Pruta, so Reuben doesn't have to chase after Shimon to return it. So that's only if b'she'ein gezela kayemis. If he stole an item and that item no longer exists, and he's just going to pay, he's going to return to him money. Aval gezela kayemis. But if the item exists, even if it's currently, this is actually talking interesting stuff, I think. Even if it's currently less than a Shavuot Pruta, tzarich leilech achrav, so then Ruvain does have to chase after Shimon to return it, because chayshinon shema tiyaker, because we are concerned that perhaps the item will increase in value, right? So if he all he has to pay is less than a Shavuot Pruta, or I guess this item that's less than a Shavuot Pruta, but that item can increase in value and be a Shavuot Pruta. So therefore, Ruvain needs to chase after Shimon to return it. But if it's just if the item doesn't exist and he's paying less than a Shavuot Pruta of money, well then you don't have to chase after Shimon, and you can. I guess when you can, you return it to him, or you can, in that case, you can give it to Shaliach or his kids, whatever. Those who say, Amar Papa, says Papa, Loi shna gizela kayemes veloshna she'ein gizela kayemes, that actually, Rav Papa says that it doesn't matter whether or not the gizela is kayemes. If we're talking about less than a pruta, Reuben does not have to chase after Shimon. Even if we're talking about an actual item, it makes no difference. If it's less than a Shavuot Pruta, it does not have to chase after him. L'shem tiyaker, lo chashinon, and we're not concerned that. But what if the item goes up in value? We're not concerned about that. Fine. Okay. So two ways to understand Rav Papa, right? According to the first one, the item, if it is an item, you'd have to return it. According to the second way, even if it's an item, you would not have to return it. On my Rove, this is I'll tell you, this is arguably interesting stuff. I don't know what to tell you, but we're going to go weiter. Amar Rava says, Rava, Gazel sholish agudis b'sholish prutis. Interesting. So, a guy steals 3 bundles. Bundles of what? I don't know. Bundles of bundles. No, not bundles of bundles. Bundles of stuff. So he steals 3 bundles of stuff, b'sholish prutos, and valued at 3 prutas, meaning each bundle is 1 pruta. So, he's got to return all 3 bundles. Vehuzlu, but we're talking about a scenario where the value decreased. Ve'amdu al shtayim. Interesting shaila. That the value of the bundles decreased, so that 3 bundles are not worth 3 shekels, 3 prutas. 3 bundles are now worth 2 prutas. Which means that each bundle is worth less than a pruta. Which means that if he returns 2 of them, well then the outstanding payment is less than a pruta. So im hechzer lo shtayim, if you returned 2 of them, chayiv lahachzir acheres, you nonetheless need to return the 3rd as well, and you can't say, well, what do you mean? At this point, this one is less than a pruta. If it's less than a pruta, I don't need to return it. Nisht, he has to return it. V'tanetune, and we learn in a brayse, Gozal chometz v'over olav pesach. If a guy steals whiskey, this is gonna be a big theme in today's daf. This is such an interesting sugya, the concept of Gozal chometz v'over olav pesach. This concept of like something that you stole that has value but now doesn't have value. But anyways, Gozal chometz v'over olav pesach. He stole a bottle of whiskey before Pesach, and now it's after Pesach. Omer lo areishelcho lifanecha. So the halacha is that even though the whiskey is currently worthless, because it's chomesh over olav Pesach, it's also bano. Still, so long as the thief has the bottle of whiskey, after Pesach, he could say, here, take it back. Even though it's worthless, it's also bano. He says, here, take it back. Now the reason why the thief can say, here, take back your whiskey, is because the whiskey, because he has the bottle of whiskey, so he says, here, take it. But if he didn't have the bottle of whiskey, so then, right, if it got lost or whatever it is, even though currently the whiskey is worthless because it's chometz shavar alav pesach, nonetheless, given to me kare mamona hu ba'i shalume. Nonetheless, since initially the whiskey, let's just say for our daf, let's say the whiskey was worth $100. The bottle of whiskey was $100. So since initially before Pesach he stole a bottle of whiskey that's worth $100. And now after Pesach, it's worth $0. Nonetheless, even though now it's worth nothing, since at the time that he stole it, it was worth $100, certainly more than a pruta, if the bottle of whiskey is gone, he has to return money. So if the bottle of whiskey exists, he just gives it back. Even though it's worthless, it doesn't matter, he gives it back. And he doesn't have to pay anything. If the bottle of whiskey is gone, then he has to pay the price at the time of the theft. So again, let's back up online. Even though the whiskey is currently worthless, since it was initially worth $100, if the bottle of whiskey gets lost, then he's going to have to pay back 100. He's going to have to pay back money. And therefore, we will say here as well with regard to the 3 bundles that were each worth a pruta initially and now are worth each 2/3 of a pruta. Afal gav dehashta lo shvei pruta, even though currently the bundles are not each worth a pruta, since initially it was worth a pruta, ba'i shalume, you need to pay it back. You need to pay, he would have to, right, the thief would have to pay back the 3 bundles, even though if he returns 2 of them, the last one is less than a shavapruta, it makes no difference since it was initially worth a shavapruta, you must pay it back. Okay. By Rav asks a kasha. Gazul shtei agudis bipruta. Rav asks that if a guy steals 2 bundles, now the 2 bundles together were worth a pruta, i.e. each one was worth half a pruta. I guess, let's assume. So he stole 2 bundles worth a pruta. Vehechzir lo achas me'en. And he returns one of them. Mahu, does he have to return the other one because the outstanding amount is less than a pruta? Mi'amrinan hashta leko gizela gabe. Do we say, well, he no longer he no longer has a shavar pruta's worth of theft? O dilma lo hader gizela davoy gabe. Or maybe he didn't return what he stole, right? Meaning, on the one hand, you could say, look, what's left is less than a shavar pruta, so he doesn't have to return the other bundle. Alternatively, he stole a pruta's worth, he has to return the full pruta's worth. He stole 2 bundles, he has to return both bundles. You can't just say that, well, now it's less than a shavar pruta. So that's the shaila. Hadar pashto, and then Rava answered, Gizela ein kan, ashava ein kan. There is no gizela, there is no returning. Gizela ein kan ashava yesh kan. I don't understand. If there's no theft, then there is returning. So this is what it means. Afal pisha gizela ein kan. Even though there's no longer a pruta of theft, nonetheless, mitzvah ashava ein kan, you didn't return it. You need to return it, right? Even though, you could look at what you have now, right? Ashava gizela ein kan. You could say, well, there's no theft here. Yeah, but there's also a shava ein kan. You also didn't return it because you have to return everything that you stole, and you haven't done that, and therefore you haven't been mekayim the mitzvah of ashava saveda. Yes, you have to return the whole thing. Rava says, they said nazir shegilach v'shir shtei cyrus. If you have a nazir, who I assume it's talking about at the end of his nazirus, he then shaves his head. Was it Vigilach is okay? Was it that he shaves all of his hair or just the hair of his head? I can't remember now. So I think it's just his head. So V'amar Rava Arei Omer, they said Nazir shegilach v'shir shtei cyrus. So if you have a Nazir who shaved his head but he left 2 hairs, lo asav lo klum, he's not mekayim. It's not considered that he shaved. He has to shave all of his hair. If there's 2 hairs remaining, no good. By Rav asked the kasha, Gilach achas v'nosha achas. What if there are 2 hairs left, and he shaved one of them and then the other one fell out? Mahu. I guess, is it considered like he was mekayim the mitzvah of giluach or not? So is he asking about a nazir who kind of plucked out, I guess, 1 hair at a time? I think the point is that it would be fine. I think it would be fine. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, Amarle v'achol ravina nazir shegilach kol asaris achas achas kami boyle bitmio. Klomar havada giluach have kim shah shabel galei chavishir have beshir what? Okay, it's considered a shaving. Okay, so meaning if he so if there were 2 hairs left, he plucked out one, the other one fell out. Of course, it's fine. So where am I? So Omar le. So where am I? So Nazir shegilach achas achas kam boy le Rava. So Omar le. So Ravina answers Rachmi Difti lo tzricha kigon. Shenoshra achas me'en v'gilach achas. No, what happens if it happens fakert? That there's 2 hairs left, so he hasn't yet been mekayim the mitzvah of giluach, and then one of them falls out, and then the final one he cuts, he shaves. Mia milanashta mias ha leka shiur, or I think there's a seyar. Do we say, look, at the end of the day, there's no longer any hair, right? One of them fell out, he shaved the other one, so there's no longer any hair. O dilma halav giluach hu dmeikara ha shir shtei cyrus behashla ki gilach lohave beisyrus. Or do we say, look, this isn't the mitzvah of shaving your head, but the nose is shaving his head, because initially when he shaved his head he left 2 hairs, so it wasn't mekayim the mitzvah, and then one of them fell out, so when he went to then shave the final one, there was no longer a mitzvah to be done. So the Pashto Rava answers it, Seyar ein kan, giluach ein kan. There's no hair, there's no shaving. Seyar ein kan, if we don't have any hair here, giluach yesh kan, then how could there possibly be shaving? Hachi ka'omar, afapisha seyar ein kan, mitzvahs giluach ein kan. Even though there is no longer any hair, I guess you are not actually mekayim the mitzvah of shaving your head, since when there were only 2 hairs left, you weren't yet mekayim the mitzvah. When one of the hairs fell out, you could no longer be mekayim the mitzvah because you don't have 2 hairs left anymore. Alright. Rava says, they said, chavis shenikva, if you have a barrel, shenikva, that got a hole in it, right? So the shaila is, you have a house with 2 floors, okay? And you have a mace on the bottom floor. So now, then there's like a space in the floor where you can like go up to the second floor. Now you stuff up that opening with a barrel, right? So that the tumah can't get in. The thing is, in that barrel that you're using to stuff in the opening, so that the tumah can't spread into the second floor, that barrel has a hole in it. And therefore, and Rashi points out that a kli that's able to be mekabel tumah cannot be chotzitz mipnei tumah, cannot be a barrier to block the tumah. So therefore, if there's a hole in the barrel, then the tumah can get into the barrel, and the barrel can become tameh. But if not, then the barrel wouldn't become tameh from the outside, and therefore it can be used as a plug. So ve'omar Rava says, Rava hariamu, they said chovis shenikva, a barrel that got a hole in it, v'sasmu shmarim, but then it got plugged up by sediment. Mamish a plug. Mamish got plugged up, stuffed up, and yoytze vein ba. Nothing was coming. Proper patch, proper plug from the sediment. Hitzilu. Okay, well then there's no longer a hole in the barrel, and it can be used to be chotzitz b'fnei atumah. But Rav asked the kasha, Ogav chetzio mau. What if there was a hole, but he didn't plug in the hole entirely, but he kind of filled it in enough so that the hole was so small that it would not be large enough to be mitame the barrel. So then what? Do we say that it would be enough for to be chotzis b'fnei atumah? Rav Yemar Rav Ashi lav mishnasenu hizo. Well, do we not have a mishnah? The Tanan, as we learned in Mishnah, chavis shenikva, if you have a chavis, a barrel that got a hole in it, v'sasmu shmar, and it was filled up and it was closed up with sediment, hitzilua. Okay, well then that entirely closes up the barrel, and it can be chotzis b'fnei atumah. Pakika bizmora. But if you kind of stuff like twigs and branches and things into the hole, ad shimareach, well then you're going to have to use some kind of plugger upper to kind of plug it up, because there's going to be space around the twigs and things. If there were 2 twigs, so if there's like 1 branch or something, just like fill it up around it. If there were 2 of them, so you're going to have to mamish plug it up around them, in between them. So so we see that davka, you have to plug it up. Dafka, you have to plug it up, mamish. Otherwise, it's not going to be chotzes b'fnei atumah. Amai b'taviki ogav chetzio. But why should you have to plug it up? If you take like some branches and stick it into the hole, well, and it's taken up most of the space, shouldn't that be similar to like when you fill in part of the hole? and there's only small amounts of air left. So from the fact that we're saying that no, you have to plug it up, it sounds like it does not work to plug up the hole partially. So time the marach lo marach lo amar v'tavi ki agav chetzio amri ochi ashto hosom ilo marach lo koi agav chetzio b'midi de koi. The difference is that when it comes to these branches, look, if you don't plug it in, if you don't use some kind of filler to plug it up properly, well then the branches are going to fall out and you're not going to have any kind of filling upping, and it's going to be a problem. But over here, where you already plugged up, the hole so that it's small enough, and the plugging upping is not going anywhere. So then maybe that should be acceptable. When it comes to Tumah and Tyra, man, it's just so abstract and so detailed that it just like becomes like it's like a little draining when it comes to Tumah and Tyra. But that's it for Tumah and Tyra. Yeah, it's just so detailed and so abstract and so descriptive. Right, it's like kind of the things you have to like describe everything. There's a house, and there's the 2 floors, and there's like a space between the 2 floors, and there's like a mace in the bottom, and there's a barrel, and the barrel has a hole in it, and you put it in the hole so that it doesn't get chotzes b'fnei tumah. But now the hole, how are you filling it up? Is it completely filled? Is it partially filled? It's like it's so detailed. I don't know. Are you into tumah and tyre? What's your thing over there? You into it? You love it? Do you love it? Says Ravi, Hare Amru, they said, Gazal chometz v'aver olav apesach. If a guy steals chometz, okay, v'aver olav apesach, okay, we were talking about this earlier, right? So Gazal chometz v'aver olav apesach, a guy steals whiskey, and now Pesach has Pesach. So even though the whiskey is chometz v'aver olav apesach, it's valueless, it's worth nothing, it's also ba'anoah, still, if the thief still has this worthless bottle of whiskey, he can just give it back to the victim and say, here, take it back. I know it's worth nothing, but here it is. Here, I stole it. Here's it. Giving it back. Boy, Rav Asakasha, Nishba olav mau. And I feel like this opens up this whole Pandora's box that's going to kind of take us for a while. I don't know. Yeah, Shavuos and stuff. We've been like in Shavuot world recently. I can't even remember what we're talking about recently. It's like so dense that like my brain is just like, I don't even know. My brain is just like, I don't know. That's like what my brain is like. It's just kind of like what my brain is like. My brain is just like, keep moving ahead. That's like what my brain is like. BavaKama has been very demanding recently. Very, very demanding. Nishba olav mau. So what? Yeah, it's BavaKama. A lot of details, not like Tumah and Tyre details, but a lot of like setting up. It's like unit testing front end code. A lot of setup. It's a lot of setup. It was like that in Yavamis. Lots of setup, and that takes a long time to set up. Yeah. It's like when you're unit testing front end code. There's like a lot of like setup, or more like integration tests, maybe. More like integration tests. There's like a lot of setup that you have to do in order to set up the scenario for the test. And that takes a really long time. Especially on front-end tests. I'm stalling. Nishba olav mau. So, yeah, definitely stalling. It's that kind of stuff. Like, it's just, it requires you to get into the details. Okay, well, we got to get to the bottom of this daf one way or another. So, the only way to do it is to go weiter. Nishba olav mau. Okay, so what if the thief swore that he didn't steal it? Interesting. Okay, says Rashi, Nishba olav la'achar shenesar nishba she'ein etzlo v'lo gazlo mimenu. Wow. So, after the whiskey was already osur ba'anoah and worthless, he then swears that he didn't steal it. Interesting. So nishba olav mau. So if he swears, then what? Do we say, well, I know that right now that he has the whiskey, he can just give it back to the victim. Just give back the worthless whiskey. I know that. But if it were to get stolen, he would have to pay back the $100 value of the whiskey. Sorry, Bob. I gotta do this. So, if it gets stolen, then he has to pay back the $100 of the whiskey. It's kind of a funny scenario. If he has the whiskey, even though it's worthless, he just gives back worthless whiskey. If the whiskey gets stolen, then he's got to pay back the $100 value of the whiskey. So do we say, again, do we say, so do we say that, well, since if the whiskey gets stolen from him, then he would have to pay back the victim the full price, $100, mamona kakafarle, and therefore he is he's denying real money, and therefore be chayav kain v'chomesh v'asham when he admits it. O dilma, or perhaps hashta mihas ha monach ve'afra be'alma hu v'lo kafar le mamona. Or do we say, look, it is not currently stolen from him, from the thief. The thief currently has it, this worthless bottle of whiskey, and he can return this worthless bottle of whiskey, and he won't actually ever have to pay anything of value. So therefore, it's not like he is denying anything of value, he's denying something of no value. So the shaila is then, what's his responsibility to kind of pay back if he swears falsely about it? So now this kasha that Rava has, it's no kasha for Rabba. The Rabba says, Rabba, Shori ganavta vehu omer lo ganavti. Interesting dialogue here. Shimon says to Reuven, I caught you red-handed. You have my ox. You stole my ox. Reuven says, no, I didn't. Shimon says, Mativo etzlecha. Then why do you have it if you didn't steal it? Shomechinam ani alav. So Reuven says, I'm watching it for you. Very smooth over there, Reuven. It reminds me of a maise. I have a friend. He got married, and then, like the next day, something like that. The party planner tells him, your friend stole all the wine. So, like boxes of wine from the chasana. So my friend had to call my other friend and say, hey, why'd you steal all the wine from the chasana? He says, oh no, we just took it so we could use it for yesheva brachas. Oh my gosh. The shtick that goes on around here, Alright, I'll go upon him. So, okay. Damarabba Shori ganavti v'omer lo ganavti. He says, no, I didn't steal it. Mativu etzlecha. So then why do you have my cow? Shomechino mani olav. Oh no, I'm just guarding it for you. That's it. Chayav. So Reuven is going to be chayiv. How come he's going to be chayiv? Because by saying that he's a shomer chinam, a shomer chinam is potter for gneva v'aveda. Is potter for gneva v'aveda. If it gets lost, or if it gets stolen, a shomer chinam is potter. So meaning, so by Reuven saying that he's a shomer chinam, basically if it would get stolen from him, so then he'd be potter. So by swearing falsely that he's a shomer chinam, he is creating a scenario where, meaning if he would have stolen it, he would be chayiv for absolutely everything. And if it gets stolen from him, he has to pay back Shimon. But by saying that he's a shomer chinam, then he's potter for gneva v'aveda. And because he's kind of, swearing that he's a shomer chinam, and which would mean that if something would happen to him and he'd be potter for if someone would be, if it would get stolen, he'd be potter. So because he's swearing on that, so then he's going to be chayiv. So he's going to be chayiv to pay. So he's going to be chayiv for that shavur. Okay. So where am I? So the Omer Rabba shoy ganavta. So if Shimon says to Reuven, shoy ganavta, you stole my ox. But Omer, he says lo ganavti, says no, I didn't steal your ox. Mativu etzlecha. Well then, why do you have my ox? Shomer chinam ani. He said, Olav. He says, I'm guarding it for you, and he swears that he didn't steal it. He's just a shomer chinam, and he swears falsely. So he's going to be chayiv for that shari pater atzmo bignev ba'aveda, because when he swore that he was a shomer chinam, so if theoretically it would get stolen, then he would have been pater for gneva v'aveda, even though really he's a thief. It would be chayiv for gneva v'aveda, chayiv for everything. Shomer sacher ani. If Reuven says I'm a paid custodian, olav chayiv also is chayiv shari pater asma mi shvura v'mesa. Because even if he says a shomer sacher, who would be chayiv for gneva v'aveda, but again, I said the other day shomer sacher would be chayiv for onsin, which is not true. Shomer sacher is potter for onsin. Shoyel is chayiv for onsin akoponim. So by saying that he's a shomer sacher, then he's arguing that he then if it would shvur of a mesa, if it would just randomly break or die or something, so you'd be potter for that. And so by making himself potter for that by swearing, he's going to be chayiv. Shoyul ani, if he says I'm borrowing it, right? Shimon says, why do you have my cow? He says, oh, I'm just borrowing it from you, and he swears about that. So shoyul ani olav chayiv shari potter asmo mimesa machmas milacha, because a shoyul is potter for mesa machmas milacha. If somebody borrows an ox to plow and he's plowing with it, not doing anything wrong, and it just like dies in the course of its work, well, he wasn't misusing the cow. He borrowed the cow to cow, and he was cowing with it, and it died while cowing. Like that's exactly what he borrowed it for doing. So therefore he's going to be potter. So you'd be potter for that. So by saying that he's a shoyel and swearing that he's a shoyel, so you'd be potter for that kind of stuff, as opposed to a gazan would be chayiv for absolutely everything. So okay, so we're saying it's chayiv alma afagabdo hakoim. So therefore we see, even though right now it is not stolen from him, or it is not no onus happened or anything like that, but the imiganiv mamona kafar, but in the event that, let's say by the shomer chinam, who says, oh, I'm just a shomer chinam, in the event that the ox would be stolen, well then he would be potter from having to pay for it. So even though right now the ox is still there, right? But since he swore falsely that he's a shomer chinam, and a shomer chinam is someone who, in the event, right, that in his capacity, that by swearing that he's a shomer chinam, if then the ox would have been stolen, he would be potter from payment, because the shomer chinam is potter for gneva va'aveda. So because he created a scenario where he would be potter in that event, even though currently it is not stolen, but in theory he created a scenario where he would be off the hook. So therefore he is chayiv. So ashtanami mamoina kafir. So here also we treat it as though he is denying the actual real money. So hachanami. So also in the case of chametz, afalpi de afra be'almahu, even though yes, currently the whiskey is worthless, kevon de imiganiv boi shalumele mamona me'alyo hashtanami mamona kafar le. Even though the whiskey currently exists, again, hachanami afalgav de afra ba'almahu, even though he currently has the bottle of whiskey and it's completely worthless, but kevon de imiganiv boi shalumele mamona me'alyo, since if the whiskey would get stolen, then he would be chayiv to pay the $100 value of the whiskey. Hashtanami mamona So even currently, when he has the bottle of whiskey, by swearing falsely that he doesn't have it, we treat it that he's denying money, and he would be chayiv keren v'chomish v'asham. Yosef, so it says Ravi, but the Agos Abach changed it to Rabba. So let's do that, because we've been talking about Rabba just now. Yosef, Rabba v'kabar la'ashmaita. So Rabba was teaching over the sugya. Eisvei Rav Amrim li Rabba. And Rav Amrim asks a kasha on Rabba. V'kichesh ba, that it says by, when a person has something and he denies it, v'kichesh ba, that he denies it, prat lemode be'ikr, right? Because over there it's talking about paying, right? That he swears and that he admits it, and then he has to pay keren v'chomish v'asham. So v'kichesh ba prat lemode be'ikr, to the exclusion when he admits to the principal amount. Ketzad, what's an example? Shori gonavta, he says, right? Shimon says to Reuven, you stole my ox. V'omer lo gonavti. And Reuven says, I didn't steal your ox. Mativu etzlecha, then why do you have it? Ato macharto li, you sold it to me. Ato nasato li, b'matona, you gave it to me as a gift. Avicha machor li, avicha nasno li b'matona, your father sold it to me, or your father gave it to me as a gift. Or achar parosi ruts, or your ox, I have your ox because your ox chased after my cow. Me'ela ba'etzli, or it just came on its own to me. To'abaderich mitzosiv, I found it wandering aimlessly on the way. Shomechina mani olav, or he says, I'm guarding it for you. Shomer socher ani olav, I'm a shomer socher on it. Shoyul ani olav, I'm borrowing it. V'nishba v'hoda, and he swears and then admits it. Yochol yehei chayav, is it possible that he will be chayav? Talmud lomer v'kichesh ba, no, it says that you're only chayav when you deny it prat lemode be'ikr, to the exclusion of when you admit to the principal amount. So since over here he's saying, yeah, I have it, but I'm a shomer chinam or whatever, so we're saying that he would be potter. Yet Rabba had said that he would be chayav. So Omerle Tadure, so Rabba says, you're a scatterbrains. Kitanye hahi, that when the Brisa says that he would be potter, deka Omar le heiloch, when the Reuven says, you know what, but take it back. I mean, Shimon comes to Reuven, he says, Reuven, why do you have my ox? He says, oh yeah, I'm guarding it for you. But here, take it back. Here, take it back. So in that case, Reuven would be potter. Hikaamino, when I said that he's chayiv dekaima be'agam, I'm talking about when the ox is rolling in the rushes down by the riverside, and therefore, and Reuven denies that he has it, or he says that I'm guarding it for you. So then he would be chayiv. Okay. Now the Gemara asks, Ato macharto li, avicho machro li, that when Reuven says, oh yeah, you sold it to me, or as the Agos V'Tzionim adds, or your father sold it to me. So my mode be'ikr ika. So what's he admit? He's not admitting, he's saying it's mine. So tzricha da amar le lo nasati lecha dmei, that Reuven says, but look, I still never paid for the ox. Shkil torcha v'zil, just take your ox and go. Ato nasatoli, avicho nasatoli, you gave it to me, or your father gave it to me. My mode be'ikr ika. Again, what's he admitting to? It's saying it's his. Damarle, that he says to Shimon, Al menaz de avidna loch naich nafsha. Look, I received this as a, I was given it. I was supposed to, I guess, do something for you that was beneficial in return. V'lo abdilach, but I never did. Shkil tarcha vizil. Just you could take your ox and go. To abaderech mitzosiv. I found the ox who was wandering aimlessly on the way. Lema ibayilach le'adureli. So Shimon should say, okay, Reuven, okay, I understand you found my ox wandering aimlessly on the way, but why did you take it? Shouldn't you have given it back to me? So Mavur Dishmur says, Mavur Dishmur ba'omer shvue aveda matzasi v'lo ayisi yodea shishalcha shachzueni lach. He says, look, I swear that I found the ox as a lost object. I didn't know that it was yours and that I should return it to you. Tani, we learn in the Brayso. So Amr ben Azai says, Ben Azai, Gimel Shvuis Hein. There are 3 Shvuis. What does Rashi say? Shalosh Shvuis Hein be'edus aveda sheshbia es ha'edim or isa es avedasi v'amr la v'achar kachoda. Okay. Okay, we're going to see if it's, okay. Right, you see it's taka machlokas, if he's going to be chayav or potter, right? Biduk. Okay, so Tanya, we learn in the Brayso. So Amr ben Azai says, Ben Azai, Gimel Shvuis Hein, that there are 3 Shavuos when it comes to a single aid. So who could tell me what Shavuos Eidus is? If I remember Shavuos Eidus from about 20 years ago, Shavuos Eidus is be'etzem, a person who was looking for testimony says to a fellow, he says, hey, do you know testimony about X, Y, and Z? He says, no, I don't. Do you swear that you don't know testimony? And he swears that he doesn't know testimony. So if it turns out that he does know testimony, does he have to bring a korban asham? I don't remember, but that's what's called Shavuos Eidus. So now, what if it wasn't 2? What if it was not 2 witnesses? What if it was only 1 witness? Okay, so Tanya Amr ben Azai says, Ben Azai Gimel Shavuos, saying there are 3 Shavuos when it comes to a single aid. Hikir ba v'lo b'motza. For example, if somebody's looking for his ox, and he says to his friend, hey, did you see my ox or whatever? So if the friend recognized the ox, but he didn't recognize the person who found the ox, right? So Shimon's asking Reuven, hey Reuven, did you see my ox? And he saw the ox, but he didn't recognize the person who had the ox. And he says that I didn't see anything. B'motza v'lo ba. Or if he recognized the guy with the cow, but he didn't recognize the cow. And I think he says he didn't see anything. Lo ba v'lo b'motza. If he didn't recognize the cow nor the person with the cow, then that would be another kind of shvuah. Lo ba v'lo b'motza kushta ishtaba. 1 second. If he doesn't recognize the cow or the person with the cow, then what's the problem? He's saying he doesn't know what you're talking about. So ema ba uv'motza. No, if you recognize the cow and you recognize the person with the cow, and I think he swears that he didn't see anything. So what's the law? So what are we talking about? Rav Ami Omar, Rab Chanina liftor, Shmuel Omar l'chiyuv. So Rav Ami Omar, Rab Chanina says that he would be potter in this, for this Shavua, whereas Shmuel says he would be chayiv. Flukta dani tanoi. It's like the following machlokes tanoim de tanya mashbia eid echod. Somebody who imposes a swear on a single aid, potter. So the eid echod is potter. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon mechayiv. My komifli, what's the machlokas? My sover davar gorim lemomin kimomin domi. My sover lab kimomin domi. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so Shimon is going to Reuven and saying, hey, do you know anything? And Reuven is saying no, and he swears. Now, Reuven is a single witness. Sachakol, what would he have been able to do as a single witness in Bezdin? He could be mechayiv a shvuah. Right? If he goes to Bezdin and he testifies that he saw so-and-so with Shimon's cow, so he could be mechayiv a shvuah to so-and-so that, to swear that he didn't, take it. But another possible outcome could be that Reuven shows up in Bezdin and this guy doesn't want to swear falsely that he didn't take it, so he'll just say, you know what? Yeah, I took it here, Shimon, you can take it back. So there's a possibility that even though Reuven can't testify as a single witness, you need 2, but there is a possibility that, merely showing up in court to be mechayev a shvua to this guy, to this third guy, might end up causing him actually returning it to Shimon. So it's a davar agor in the moment. Reuven could potentially not directly testify, but can cause the third guy to say, you know what, I'm going to give it back to Shimon. Yes, I haven't give it back to Shimon. So the shaila is davar agor in the moment kimamen dami. That who are we talking about over here? Rav Ami Reb Chanina says Potter because davar agor in the moment lav kimamen dami. And Shmuel says Chayv. We would say davar agor in the moment kimamen dami. That was the Kufay of Masechet BavaKama. Open, peace out.